Chapter 571, Killing Intent. This is the Longyang base city, the middle-aged man explained to Su Ping. The middle-aged man felt he could finally breathe as they were getting closer and closer to the base city. He had been scared to a degree that he felt suffocated throughout the trip. The killing intent from that young man made the middle-aged man think he was with a vicious monster, constantly on the verge of being torn to pieces at any minute. Su Ping told the Inferno Dragon to fly right ahead toward the wall. He could already see the city name. Longyang. That was the top Class A base city. The fame of the Longyang base city was far-reaching. Even people living in the remote areas by the continent's border would have an inkling about the base city. People said that the base city was prosperous, filled with beautiful scenery. Many famous battle pet warriors had been born there. It was said that many legendary battle pet warriors had originated from the Longyang base city. Many different forces were gathered there, and they shared a complicated relationship. A brick could be thrown, killing some wealthy boys in one go. Outside the base city, many people were driving into the base city. Some vehicles looked quite strange. They were like RVs, but heavily armed at the same time. State your identity. From the city wall came a titled battle pet warrior who stopped Su Ping. The presence of the Inferno Dragon had startled the titled guard a bit, but he was able to remain calm. The Inferno Dragon was a rare kind, and in any other base city, its presence would stir up a huge sensation. However, many powerful battle pet warriors were gathered there. The Inferno Dragon was not such a rare beast in those parts. Su Ping from Longyang, Su Ping said. The titled battle pet warrior raised his eyebrows. I am asking for your title, not your name. I haven't heard it yet. Also, is this your first time in Longyang base city? Say you're a titled battle pet warrior, you are still not allowed to fly at a low altitude inside the base city. The noise will upset the residents. If you have to fly, do so beyond a 2,000-meter altitude, and the speed limit is 200 mph. You are way past that speed limit. I haven't decided on a title yet. Call me the boss if you must, Su Ping frowned. I'll be mindful of the speed when I get inside. Now step away if you have no other questions for me. Boss, what kind of title is that? I have never heard anything of the sort, that titled battle pet warrior argued grumpily. I think you must have reached the titled rank only recently. I don't believe you don't have a title yet. I cannot verify your identity if you do not tell me your title. I've already told you that I haven't decided yet. If you cannot verify that, then just consider me as one who is not at the titled rank. I cannot do that. You're not telling me your title. Are you some notorious wanted man? In any case, go to the line over there if you don't think you should be treated as a titled battle pet warrior. Those below the titled rank are not allowed to fly into the base city. That titled battle pet warrior was not getting any friendlier. He thought that Su Ping was up to no good. Sir, I'm Mo Fengping from the Valiant Academy, and this is the number of my entry pass. Could you please let us in? The middle-aged man did not expect that they would be stopped at the city wall. It was unlikely for Su Ping to be a wanted man, since he was someone that even his teacher respected. Therefore, the middle-aged man decided to help. The Valiant Academy. The titled battle pet warrior looked calmer. Let me find out. He typed the digits of Mo Fengping's entry pass into his phone, and the result was soon produced. He looked at Mo Fengping. It is you, a teacher from the Valiant Academy. Mr. Mo, and this titled battle pet warrior is. He's my teacher's friend. Mo Fengping produced a forced smile. Your teacher's friend. The titled battle pet warrior was surprised. He saw the information related to Mo Fengping on his phone, public information. It said that Mo Fengping's teacher was Han Yuxiang, the vice principal of the Valiant Academy. Han Yuxiang was very famous among titled battle pet warriors. Han Yuxiang's friend. The titled battle pet warrior changed his attitude toward Su Ping. You are Su Ping. What is your title? I would like to know. You are not worthy. Su Ping told the Inferno Dragon to fly into the city directly. He didn't like that titled battle pet warrior who seemed to be a wily old bird, a person eager to find trouble. What? The titled battle pet warrior was startled. Su Ping didn't show him any respect, and he only came back to his senses when the inferno dragon flew away. What the hell, Su Ping? Fine, I won't forget that name. I dare you to come out of the city from here. That titled battle pet warrior interspersed his talk with curses. He had met his fair share of titled battle pet warriors. Titled warriors were nothing in the Longyang base city. That man is a titled battle pet warrior working in the military force of the base city, a member of the army group called the Dragon Oppressor. You shouldn't have angered him, Mo Fengping carefully cautioned Su Ping. Su Ping was completely at ease. Just another man on the street. He would be a dead man by now if you hadn't jumped in when he tried to stop me again. Mo Fengping was speechless. Su Ping was more vicious than he thought. He had also sensed the young man's killing intent. He couldn't figure out why his teacher knew such a cruel man. This is the Longyang base city, quite unlike other base cities. The number of titled battle pet warriors living here is beyond calculation. All the Dragon Oppressor members are at the titled rank, and it's said that there are more than 80 of them. You didn't just upset one of them, but the whole 80 of them. Their connections are too complicated. Mo Fengping was still worried, because he was afraid that he and his teacher would be implicated. I said nothing to worry about, it's a thing in the past. Show me the way. I must get to the Valiant Academy, Su Ping ordered coldly. Mo Fengping produced a forced smile. He wondered what gave Su Ping such confidence. He had to admit that Su Ping was not a weak person, but that base city was not the usual kind. The titled rank meant nothing. Even his teacher would have to be careful with his relationships, or else he would displease people who could make life difficult for him. That way, go straight. Mo Fengping pointed in a certain direction. Su Ping told the Inferno Dragon to head over there. Outside the Valiant Academy campus, there was a massive stone arch by the campus, which stood over a transparent seal. Only people who wore the Academy's ID could move to and fro unimpeded. Dark dragon statues flanked the stone arch. They were so vivid that people would often feel as if the dragons were gazing at them. Bang! A person was thrown out from the seal. That person's clothes were in tatters, tainted with blood. One of his arms was broken, bent at an odd angle, and the elbow bone was exposed. You loser! Do you honestly think everyone can get into the Valiant Academy? Take away his ID. Let him stand out here. We have a test this afternoon. I'm glad that he'll get a 0 because he won't be there. Listen, you punk. This is what you get for angering young Master Ming. How dare you argue with him when you're so weak? Is it that hard to call him young Master Ming and bow to him? Why did you have to make us beat you? Now it's too late, even if you want to kneel before young Master Ming. Forget about him. Let the loser stay here. We'll make sure that he fails all of his tests. He's already late for class today. He'll be expelled soon enough. Some young men were standing inside the arch. They stared at the boy sprawled outside the seal with disdain. That beaten-up boy bit his teeth. Blood was still dripping from his hair. He used one hand to prop himself to a sitting position. While glaring at the young men, he filed his teeth and clenched his only able hand. One day, I will make sure that you pay for this. You idiot, goodbye. Let's go, guys. The young men sneered and turned away to leave. Boom! They heard a deafening noise by the door as soon as they turned. A dragon came whooshing down from the sky, making the entire stone arch tremble. Chapter 572, Meeting Old Friends. A gust of strong wind blew toward that group of young men. Their hair and their shirts fluttered in the wind. They were frozen on the spot. The young men struggled but managed to turn back around. Their hearts were trembling. They felt a pair of eyes that should belong to demons were staring at them. Once they had a visual, they convinced themselves that they were just being silly. It was a dragon coming down from the sky. Standing on the dragon's shoulder was a man with arms crossed in front of his chest. He coldly looked down at everything from a height. The young men were sure he was the source of that killing intent they felt. That is, the beaten-up boy outside the seal had been pushed away by the dragon. He crawled up and stared at the beast. To his surprise, It had a striking resemblance to the Inferno dragon breed. Still, it was different from the images of Inferno dragons in the illustrated book. The beaten-up boy soon noticed the person standing on one of the dragon's shoulders. Not even sunlight would be enough to thaw the ice in that pair of eyes. Him? The battered student widened his eyes in disbelief. He would have never expected to see Su Ping there. Huh? Su Ping had also noticed that beaten-up boy, a familiar person. He remembered immediately. Su Quang. The blood stains he had, and his overall embarrassing state left Su Ping seething. Su Quang was proof of what was going on in the Valiant Academy. He remembered that had also enrolled in the Valiant Academy, hoping to further his studies. He was able to enter because of his performance at the Elite League. How come he ended up like this? Whoosh! Su Ping lifted his hand. He used his astral powers to pull Su Quang from the ground and to see him up close. Su Quang didn't resist. He was suddenly unable to control the tears. He could hardly describe the feeling of meeting old acquaintances in that unfamiliar place. You know him. Mo Fengping was surprised. What has happened to you? Su Ping didn't answer Mo Fengping's question. He was more concerned about Su Quang. The latter calmed down after his burst of emotion. He flushed in embarrassment and lowered his head. I'm a loser. I wouldn't be like this if I could be a little bit stronger. Aren't you studying here? Su Ping gazed at Su Quang. Mo Fengping was startled. He took another look at Su Quang. Something came to Mo Fengping's mind that rendered him pale with fright. I am. Su Quang felt even more ashamed. He felt too insulted to speak out. Most students are from the major families of other base cities. They form groups, gangs. I didn't join any, so I was marginalized. He twisted the truth a bit to recover a bit of face. He had never been unwilling to join one. He had wanted to, but no group wanted to take him in. Those parties or groups had their own rules and requirements in the academy. He didn't pass the tests and was considered too much of a loser that he couldn't even qualify to be someone's minion. He had returned to being his ordinary self without the dark dragon hound. He wouldn't have performed so stunningly at the Elite League if he had relied completely on himself and his own battle pets. Unsurprisingly, he became the worst of the students once he got there. All the dreams and hopes he had when he joined the academy had been crushed into pieces. He worked hard, very hard, but it wasn't enough to catch up with the others. It just so happened that the Valiant Academy students had to practice physical skills and secret skills, which needed an extensive amount of time. It couldn't be done in an express program. Moreover, Su Quang lacked the resourceful background that the other students had. He was unable to buy a great deal of potions and skill books. Personal effort would mean little in such a case. That was the reality. Even giving 120% of your strength would still lead you to fail. Su Ping pulled a long face. He had gained a general idea of the Valiant Academy based on Su Quang's description. And my sister? Su Ping asked. Su Quang immediately understood why Su Ping was there. Your sister is a different story. She has the Moonfrost dragon that you gave her and the teachers love her. She's not weak herself. Some clubs invited her soon after she arrived. Are you aware that she's missing? Su Ping frowned. Su Quang didn't sound as if he knew. Indeed, Su Quang was stunned. Missing? How? I thought she was cultivating on campus. How could she go missing? She's been missing for 7 days. Haven't you heard anything? Don't you stay in touch? Su Ping's face was even more clouded. Su Quang blushed. My dear teacher, you can see my situation. Your sister is the teacher's pet. I couldn't have talked to her often. Our standing is like that of a servant and a princess. Any spare time I can get I spend it on cultivation and dealing with those bullies. I wouldn't even have the time to disturb your sister. Teacher. Mo Fengping was surprised by the salutation. Su Ping is this student's teacher. But Su Ping didn't seem to be that much older in comparison. Su Ping wore grave expressions. He turned to Mo Fengping. So, this is what the Valiant Academy is like, right? I thought students would simply take lessons, attend lectures, and cultivate. I didn't know that the students would fight openly and secretly. Aren't you worried about this? Mo Fengping forced a bitter smile. All those students come from powerful families. Not even the academy can stop this. That's how it is. Su Ping snorted. Han Yuxiang is here, right? Get him here. Mo Fengping couldn't believe that Su Ping was calling his teacher by name. My teacher should be here. I will call him and then show you to his office. I mean that he has to come and see me here. Su Ping glared at Mo Fengping. Han Yuxiang had truly enraged him. He only told him about his missing sister after a week had passed. If Han Yuxiang had sent a titled battle pet warrior to tell him the news, it would have taken less than half a day for a titled warrior to travel from the Longyang base city to the Longjiang base city. News had taken too long to reach Su Ping. If anything had happened to her, it would be too late for him to do anything. Also, he was the one who had sent Su Lingyu there. What would he tell his parents? He was the outsider, a turtle dove taking over the nest of a magpie. Su Lingyu was their parents' actual kid. She could not die and she should not. Let me ask him. Mo Fengping was frightened by the raging flames in Su Ping's eyes. He knew he couldn't upset Su Ping further. Mo Fengping decided that he could tell everything to his teacher since he respected Su Ping. Soon after the call was put through, Sir Fengping, how was your trip? Were you able to find Miss Su in the Longjiang base city? Well, sir, I met Miss Su's brother, Mr. Su Ping. He is right here at the academy and he says he wants to come here. Mo Fengping felt too embarrassed to continue. The other side of the call fell into silence. A few seconds later, Mo Fengping was able to hear Han Yuxiang's voice again. Tell Mr. Su that I am sorry. I'm on my way. With that said, Han Yuxiang hung up. Mo Fengping could not believe that his teacher would be going over to see them. Han Yuxiang, the vice principal of the Valiant Academy. Someone with ample fame at the peak of the titled rank. A person like that was following Su Ping's orders and had even said he was sorry. Mo Fengping felt his head was in a muddle. He put down his phone. The young man standing next to him turned out to be a bigger mystery than he had expected. All of the peak titled rank warriors were known. They would have already established their fame years prior. Still, he had never heard of anyone named Su Ping. Several people arrived and stood in front of the Inferno Dragon. They were the campus guards. The guards recognized the Inferno Dragon at once. The pet's size indicated that it was close to the peak of the 9th rank. The master of that dragon was most likely at the titled rank. Who are you? One of the guards shouted the question to Su Ping. Mo Fengping came back to his senses. Hey, it's me. He's the vice principal's guest. The guards naturally recognized Mo Fengping, who was a teacher there. His words reassured them. They stepped to the sides. They would have added a word of caution if Su Ping were Mo Fengping's friend. After all, it wasn't a good thing to have made such a ruckus in the entrance. The dignity of the academy should be always upheld. But Su Ping was Han Yuxiang's guest. That was a completely different scenario. Who is that? I think he knows that loser. That loser is up there with him. I thought that loser was from a minor family, with a father who only had some money. How come he knows the vice principal's guest? That group of young men was still here. Something about Su Quang standing on the Inferno Dragon's shoulder was off. Soon a person rushed over. Whoosh! That person wore a black and white robe. He flew past the seal and stopped in the air, right in front of the Inferno Dragon. The guards and the group of young people were equally astounded to see their vice principal arrive in person, and at such a quick speed. Mr. Su. Han Yuxiang had gray hair but rosy cheeks. He greeted Su Ping with a nervous demeanor. He had heard all about Su Ping. He had killed a legendary battle pet warrior during the Supremacy League and was named Fate Challenger. Soon after, he had forced the Otherworld Heavenly King to retreat in the Longjiang base city. He had also received news that Su Ping had forced his way into the tower, killed legendary battle pet warriors, having left safely. Every single piece of the story was stunning enough, and the hero was the same person. Han Yuxiang had already convinced himself that Su Ping was a dangerous man before all of that happened. Yuan Tianchen wanted to get back at Su Ping but ended up being beaten up, almost getting himself killed. Han Yuxiang thought that everything about Su Ping was surprising, but everything made sense at the same time. The day Han Yuxiang stepped into the store and saw the young man, he had understood that the young man was a monster in hiding. He also believed that Su Ping was somehow related to the destruction of the Sidu and Wang families. He was more afraid of Su Ping than he was of Yuan Tianchen. Sir. It never occurred to Mo Fengping that his teacher would speak to Su Ping so nervously. Mo Fengping had developed a great sense after years in the academy. He could tell right away that his teacher was scared and stressed out. But his impression had been that his teacher merely respected Su Ping. That was clearly not the case. Han Yuxiang was frightened. Mo Fengping could no longer remain calm. Chapter 573, The Dragon Tower. Vice Principal. Su Quang was also surprised to see him. He recognized that the new arrival was Han Yuxiang, the vice principal he had seen once during orientation. He was a great man. His statue stood in many places on campus, and the plaques listed his great contributions. This man knows Su Ping. I won't talk to ask about why you took this long to tell me about this incident. Let's talk about the disappearance of my younger sister first. Su Ping went straight to the point. Han Yuxiang felt his heart had stopped for 2 seconds, fearing that Su Ping would teach him a lesson right there. He knew all too well how bold Su Ping was. He wasn't a resident from the Longjiang base city, but he had been keeping tabs on Su Ping ever since he left the base city. It was impossible to not be concerned about such a dangerous man. The Tang family had returned with defeat and great losses. The Star organization had been forced to give Su Ping gifts and apologize to him. The young man was a monster that no rule could stop. Mr. Su, please allow me to explain, Han Yuxiang blurted out. Su Ping glared at him. I told you that we won't talk about you now. Tell me about my sister. Don't you dare waste another second. My sister can be in greater danger with every passing second. Give me the short version if you want to keep your life. Now. Mo Fengping and Su Quang were overwhelmed by disbelief. It was as if Su Ping were talking to one of his servants. But Han Yuxiang was a famous titled battle pet warrior. Han Yuxiang felt cold sweat was oozing out of his forehead. Sure. The thing is, your sister entered the Dragon Tower to train 7 days ago. We haven't heard from her since then. I have verified the access records of those who have entered the Dragon Tower. She did go there. I sent people to search the Dragon Tower, with the exception of the levels that not even I or the most talented students can go to, but we couldn't find her anywhere. I then got the surveillance video in that area, but something went wrong and the camera stopped working. I had people search on campus, but no one has been able to find her. I even paid a visit to clairvoyants to ask for their help, but it's been days and they haven't told me anything. I had no other choice but to ask Fengping to go to Longjiang Base City. After all, the Otherworld Heavenly King was there. I thought your sister might have snuck home once she heard. Han Yuxiang told Su Ping everything in one breath. He ended up gasping for breath at the end. Maybe he had been talking too fast. He also had to gulp to clear his throat. He wondered if Su Ping would find that explanation satisfactory. Why didn't you tell me right away? Su Ping asked. Han Yuxiang produced a forced smile. He whispered, I thought I could find her. I would have troubled you for nothing if I would have been able to handle it and warned you anyway. Su Ping stared at Han Yuxiang. He was able to tell that the latter was lying, but he also found out why Han Yuxiang wasted all that time. He was afraid of punishment. Show me to that tower, Su Ping said. Han Yuxiang was relieved to find that Su Ping had not resorted to violence yet. He nodded and showed the way as if he were a simple doorman. Mo Fengping and Su Quang's minds had stopped working. Han Yuxiang was no longer that majestic and detached titled battle pet warrior to them. They would have never imagined that a man like Han Yuxiang could be that weak-kneed. Su Quang looked at Su Ping, his mind blank. He had always known that Su Ping was a powerful and talented man. That being said, Han Yuxiang was at the titled rank after all, being the vice principal of the academy to boot. He was a man of many honors. After Su Kuang had gone through so much suffering in the academy, he knew more than ever how privileged a man like Han Yuxiang was. However, Han Yuxiang was terrified, not even daring to protest when Su Ping was rude. If anything, he was afraid he would upset Su Ping further. Mo Fengping also baffled. He still had no idea about what was going on. "Let's go," Su Ping ordered the Inferno Dragon. Han Yuxiang waved his hand to deactivate the seal and lead the way. The guards posted by the entrance were stunned speechless. They wondered who Su Ping was. Why would Han Yuxiang go there in person and offer apologies to him? What a terrifying man. Boom! The Inferno Dragon stepped over into the campus. The seal was rarely deactivated. Everyone had to get in or out with their IDs. Han Yuxiang was making an exception for Su Ping. As a matter of fact, riding on a huge battle pet on campus was against the rules, but it was clear that Han Yuxiang was not going to bother Su Ping about it. While sitting on the Inferno Dragon's shoulder, Su Kuang shouted to that group of young men, "Give me back my ID." The young men looked at each other, hesitating. They could tell that Su Ping was not a common man, and they felt a bit scared since Su Kuang had some sort of connection with him. "What ID? Don't lie, we don't have it." "Right, you must have lost it. Don't blame us for your mistakes." The young men hurried to wash their hands off the problem. Su Kuang was furious. "You grabbed it, don't you lie about it." Su Ping told the Inferno Dragon to stop. He glanced over at the young men. "Give him back his ID." "Sir, we didn't take his ID. Don't listen to him." "Sir, listen to me. I am part of the Hong family of the Yangtze base city." "Sir." The young men hurried to name their origin and status, but the dragon had lifted its paw before they could finish. All light was blotted. The young men turned pale, fearing that the dragon's paw was going to land on them. Bang, bang, bang. The dragon's paw did land on them. The ground trembled. The young men were unable to get out. They were flattened. That sudden event shocked Mo Fengping, Su Kuang, as well as the guards. No one saw it coming. Su Ping killed some students in public, right there. One of the students was a talent from the Hong family of the Yangtze base city, and he died. What should the school tell the Hong family? The other students were also from some influential families. Han Yuxiang soon calmed himself down. Even though his heart was racing because of the deep killing intent he perceived from Su Ping, Han Yuxiang was afraid to say anything to put any blame on Su Ping. "Mr. Su, you don't have to deal with them yourself. See, your pet's paw got dirty." Han Yuxiang even had to apologize. Su Ping pointed out coldly, "They had Su Kuang's blood on them. They clearly had Su Kuang's ID, and yet they lied to me and to you. They deserve to die." Mo Fengping opened his mouth, but no words came out. The thing that surprised him even more was his teacher's reaction. What a mad world it was. "Sir." Su Kuang turned to Su Ping. He would have never expected for Su Ping to straight out kill those young thugs for his sake. Of course, Su Kuang did wish for the chance to have skinned those bullies, but despite all of his anger and hatred, he didn't have the ability to make it happen, not in years to come. Still, Su Ping had helped him vent his anger. The Inferno Dragon lifted its paw, revealing the pool of blood. It used its nails to carefully fish out a chain from the mess, and then threw it to Su Ping. Su Ping didn't catch it. The chain was transferred to Su Kuang. The Inferno Dragon continued on its way. Its stomps made the ground tremble. "Sir." Su Kuang stared at his ID and bit his lip. He knew that Su Ping had never told anyone that Su Kuang was his student. Su Kuang was the one with a thick enough face to address him as his teacher. And yet, Su Ping had been willing to resolve the matter for him. All the students whom Su Ping killed had strong connections. He had learned that fact after being bullied for a long time. Even so, Su Ping was willing to help him. Su Kuang didn't know what he could ever do to repay him. Su Kuang kept his head low and remained silent. No one was able to tell what he was thinking. Mo Fengping had gathered himself by that point. Since his teacher had not accused Su Ping of anything, he could not either. He would glance at Su Ping from the corner of his eye every now and then. He felt suffocated even by merely standing next to the young man. Han Yuxiang showed the way, and the Inferno Dragon walked down the boulevard. Its paws left many indentations on the ground. The streets and boulevards on campus were very tough. The Inferno Dragon was not strong enough to destroy them completely. Some students were stunned by the sight along the way. The fact that Han Yuxiang was in front of the Inferno Dragon caused more of a sensation. Ursine, everyone in the academy knew Han Yuxiang. No one had ever seen anyone riding on a large battle pet on campus. Who is that? I think he's the vice principal's guest. Is that Mr. Mo there? Who is that dude? He's covered in blood. Let's go and have a look. Many students went after the Inferno Dragon, fed by curiosity. They could not think of anyone able to ride on such a large battle pet on campus, with the vice principal showing the way. Is that man a legendary battle pet warrior? That possibility worked like a charm. More and more students began to gather behind the Inferno Dragon. It would be thrilling to know if that man was indeed at the legendary rank. A legendary rank battle pet warrior was visiting the academy, and they, the students, were lucky enough to meet a legend. Chapter 574, Star Student. That's the Dragon Tower. With Han Yuxiang leading the way, the party soon went past several boulevards and past some areas with restricted access, finally arriving at the foot of the mountain, which was considered a sacred cultivation site. Standing at the center of the plaza was a great peak. That magnificent peak had a strange shape, bent toward a side, much like the number 17. Aside from the moss which was densely dotting its surface, the peak was entangled in many dark iron chains as well. Many students were gathered in the nearby plaza at the moment, discussing some matters. Boom! The Inferno Dragon arrived. That tremor alerted the students. They turned around and were stunned by the sight of the Inferno Dragon. Riding on large battle pets was forbidden on campus. That was the regulation. Some of the students with better sight soon noticed that Han Yuxiang was flying in front of the Inferno Dragon. The vice principal. Is that his battle pet? I don't think so. I think there is someone on top of the dragon. Don't you think this dragon is kind of like an Inferno Dragon? A little bit, but this one doesn't look like the ones in the pictures. The scales are larger and the dragon is larger. The students conversed to exchange doubts and questions. Han Yuxiang approached the students soon after. Nice to meet you, sir. Nice to meet you, sir. All the students immediately saluted as they stepped to the sides. They sized up the Inferno Dragon and Su Ping with curiosity, including the other two people standing on the dragon's shoulder. So this is the Dragon Tower. Su Ping stared at that crooked peak with eyebrows tied in a frown. Somehow, he was getting a bad feeling from that crooked summit. It was as if he were standing in front of some perilous thing. He was very sensitive when it came to potential dangers. He had developed that instinct after dying so many times in the cultivation sites. Yes, that is the Dragon Tower, a sacred place for cultivation. It is somewhat similar to the Dragon Bone Tower in the Longtai Mountain, but we didn't build this tower by copying that one. This is all nature's work. Han Yuxiang continued. Your sister went missing after she went inside the tower. We suspect that she went into the deeper parts and got trapped inside. I sent the most talented student we have to search inside, but to no avail. So I don't think she's there. Why did you find a student to do so? Is there something not allowing you to go inside? Su Ping asked. Han Yuxiang produced a forced smile. Mr. Su, you're not wrong. The Dragon Tower is quite strange. Its mysterious power dictates that people older than 24 cannot go in, regardless of rank. We found out about that after countless tests. Anyone beyond that age, no matter the method used, can't get inside. Age limit. That's a strange rule. Mysterious power. He thought of a possibility. Nature's law. Only the powerful creatures at the star rank could have established a nature's law. Once the rules were set for a specific location, anything within that area would have to follow those rules. But what did that have to do with this Dragon Tower? Is it some artifact left behind by someone at the star rank? Su Ping stared at the peak with knitted eyebrows. He was finding the peak more and more familiar, like getting a déjà vu sense. He couldn't pinpoint what was wrong with the peak nor why he found it familiar. He didn't bother about such matters. The most important thing was to find Su Lingyu. "I'll go in and have a look," Su Ping said. He hopped down from the Inferno Dragon, taking Su Kuang with him. Mo Fengping followed suit and left the Inferno Dragon. He used some sort of special skill to ensure his safety since he didn't have the ability to fly. Su Ping didn't look back, but a swirl was appearing next to the Inferno Dragon. Not waiting for Su Ping's instructions, the Inferno Dragon jumped into the swirl by itself. Han Yuxiang seemed to be scared, given that Su Ping wanted to enter the Dragon Tower. "Mr. Su, I'm telling you the truth. There isn't a single lie in what I said." "I understand." Han Yuxiang wanted to ask why he would still go in. Han Yuxiang believed that Su Ping was way past 24 years of age. How else could he reach such a high rank? There was a small commotion. "Senior Fei is coming out. He has been in there for a long time. I believe he must have broken the record again. Look at the stenographer. The result is coming out." The students seemed to be thrilled. They had shifted their attention away from Han Yuxiang and the Inferno Dragon. A handsome young man was walking out of the peak, with a straight face and with hands clasped behind his back. Standing next to him was a young man wearing a white top hat and a strange uniform. That young man held a bronze book. He walked to reach a dark tablet by the peak under everyone's stares. The young man pushed the bronze book into the opening on the tablet. It was a perfect fit. Soon, a ray of light rose from the tablet, climbing up and up before it stopped. There was a column that said level. The number changed from 17 to 18. 18. "Oh my God! Is he even a person? That is unbelievable. His combat strength is comparable to the peak of the titled rank," the students exclaimed and some gasped. The person ranked second as shown on the tablet had merely reached level 16. It was a difference of 2 levels. The digits might sound small, but one had to know that the difficulty would vary tremendously with each level. The students gazed at that handsome young man as if he were a monster. That young man was the most talented of the subcontinent district. Those other so-called talents out there were all losers compared to him. Han Yuxiang noticed that as well. The change in the number startled him. "Senior Fei is amazing." "Senior Fei, can I work for you after I graduate?" "Senior Fei, I will forever be your follower." The students gathered around the young man. The girls were charmed by him, and even the boys would smile fawningly at him. All those students belonged to influential families. Their statuses could rise in the future if they could befriend that super talent. As long as Senior Fei stayed away from any fatal misfortunes, there was no telling how promising his future would be. After all, he was already considered to be one of the best students the academy had ever had. "Step away," said the young man. His voice was low, but his words carried power. The students immediately stepped aside. Their shower of compliments stopped. They wanted to befriend him, but that didn't mean they would be sycophants. "Sir." The young man approached Han Yuxiang directly. He didn't even pay attention to Su Ping. The young man merely nodded to Mo Fengping so as to not appear too impolite. "Sir, are you here for me? I have just finished my closed-door training and gained some insights. I thought I could come here and test my progress." The young man sounded neither humble nor pushy. Han Yuxiang would have allowed himself to drown the young man with praises and to laugh if it were another time or place. Soon, every student would be amazed by the fact that the young man had reached the 18th level. That was an important sign. It meant that the young man's combat strength was approaching the peak of the titled rank. But Fei Tianyi, the name of the young man, was just a student who was less than 24 years old. He had tremendous potential. It was very likely that he would become a legendary battle pet warrior in the future. The academy could even recommend Fei Tianyi to the tower, so he could learn and train with other legendary battle pet warriors, increasing the likelihood of him reaching that rank. "Tianyi, well done. Han Yuxiang nodded. He refrained from showing his joy. He didn't even offer a sincere smile. Fei Tianyi was confused. That was not the reaction he had expected. Han Yuxiang should have been stunned and overjoyed. Fei Tianyi didn't allow himself to waste too much time on that confusion. He had greater expectations for himself. The academy was merely a stepping stone for him. He had already become famous elsewhere. Even though he was still a student, his fame was greater than that of Venerable the Blade and Han Yuxiang. Fei Tianyi was sure that the academy would treat him well as they would a star student. He would later join the tower and reach the legendary rank. But that wasn't the ultimate goal for him. There were weak and powerful legendary battle pet warriors. He wanted to be the most powerful graduate there had ever been in the academy. Han Yuxiang had once been his guide, but he was no longer able to provide further instructions. Han Yuxiang himself wasn't going to reach the legendary rank. "Sir, I will go back and continue my cultivation, if that is all right with you," Fei Tianyi said. Han Yuxiang nodded. "Sure, good luck." "Wait," Su Ping said all of a sudden. Fei Tianyi was surprised. He turned to look at Su Ping with a displeased frown. Su Ping was asking Han Yuxiang, "Is he your student? Is he the guy you sent into the Dragon Tower to look for my sister?" "Yes, it's Tianyi. He's not only my student but the best student we have. Also, from the record he just set, we can tell that he is the most talented student we've had in a century," Han Yuxiang explained at once. He would have prided himself by saying those words, but he was going about gingerly this day, afraid he would say the wrong words. Su Ping nodded. "Which level can my sister reach?" "I've seen her record. I think it should be the 14th level." "You think?" No, I am sure. It was the 14th level." Han Yuxiang was panicking. Su Ping had told him to look after Su Lingyu and he agreed. He had already lost her. He would face a tirade of problems if Su Ping thought he didn't look after her at all. Su Ping glared at him before he said to Fei Tianyi, "Did you find any clues when you were inside the Dragon Tower looking for my sister?" Fei Tianyi looked at Su Ping with a cloudy face. The frown was answering the question for him. "Why would I tell you?" "Tianyi, watch your attitude," Han Yuxiang cautioned him at once. "Now tell him. Spare no details." Chapter 575. A Name Remembered by All. Fei Tianyi. His bafflement increased. While Han Yuxiang was his teacher, he had never acted like one when he interacted with Fei Tianyi. Han Yuxiang was quite fond of him and had never said any harsh words to him. This was the first time for him to see his old teacher behave so seriously. "Sir, this is," Fei Tianyi decided to ask. He could somehow tell that his teacher was being mean because of that young man. The young man appeared to be Su Lingyu's brother. Fei Tianyi had heard that Su Lingyu was from some average base city who had been recruited due to winning first place at the base city's elite league selection. He had seen her before. That girl was nothing special, though her battle pet was not. Even he was a little bit scared of that Moonfrost dragon, but that was it. It was a waste for a mediocre master to have such a powerful battle pet. "This is Mr. Su, Su Lingyu's brother," Han Yuxiang explained right away. "Mr. Su is here to find out the reason why Miss Su disappeared. Tell Mr. Su everything about your search." Fei Tianyi raised his eyebrows. "Sir, I've already told you about it. You know that I'm not a fan of repeating myself." Han Yuxiang stole a glance at Su Ping and noticed the coldness in the latter's eyes. Han Yuxiang cautioned Fei Tianyi at once. "Tianyi, behave. Mr. Su is at the titled rank. He is more prestigious than you can imagine. Be polite." Fei Tianyi grinned with sarcasm. Titled rank. He could tell that without Han Yuxiang pointing it out. After all, he knew quite a few titled battle pet warriors. Other people might become fearful upon hearing the term titled rank, but not him, not Fei Tianyi. His target was to reach the legendary rank. He didn't care about the titled rank at all. Besides, he could defeat a lot of titled battle pet warriors already. Only the titled battle pet warriors at the peak, and with some unknown skills, could intimidate him a bit. "Sir, I am sorry, but I don't like to be forced into anything," Fei Tianyi insisted. Although Han Yuxiang had warned him otherwise, he didn't like to be forced and he didn't want to force himself. I don't want to repeat myself, so deal with that. He would remain the same even if he was faced with someone at the peak of the titled rank. You! Han Yuxiang was losing his patience. Fei Tianyi clearly had the impression that Su Ping was just some average titled battle pet warrior. Indeed, he didn't have to do anything if that were the case, and he didn't even have to offer any greetings. But Su Ping was not like that. He had killed legendary battle pet warriors, challenged the tower, and he defeated the Otherworld Heavenly King. He was even feared by legendary battle pet warriors. Before Han Yuxiang could warn his student again, Su Ping had already lifted his hand, signaling Han Yuxiang to stop talking. Su Ping extended his hand. Whoosh! Without any warning, without any preparation, Su Ping grabbed Fei Tianyi by the throat, strangling the latter. Fei Tianyi could feel the strength on those 5 fingers. They were like 5 steel bars over his neck. An extra squeeze and his neck would break. Fei Tianyi was turning red. He was both startled and angry, but that anger changed into complete fear when he saw that indifference in Su Ping's eyes. He felt killing intent. That substantial, profound, and wild killing intent. Is he going to kill me? The very thought was unsettling him. They were on campus, and his teacher, the vice principal, was right there. How dare this man do this? You said you didn't like to be forced. What a coincidence. I like to force people, Su Ping said. I am asking questions, so answer them. Why do you have to force me to do this? From what I recall, etiquette demands that a master battle pet warrior should act respectfully before a titled battle pet warrior. Why aren't you treating me with respect? Who said you couldn't answer my questions? Mr. Su, please. Han Yuxiang was pale with fright. He dreaded the chance that Su Ping would really kill Fei Tianyi in a fit of rage. But Fei Tianyi was the star student of the academy. He had just refreshed his record to the 18th level, and he had not graduated yet. He would be able to leave his name in the academy's history. People would still talk about him in years to come. The academy could lose all dignity if he were to die there and then, in Su Ping's hands. The commotion caught everyone's attention. The students swarmed over, only to see that stunning event. Their senior Fei, who had just come out of the Dragon Tower while showered in glory, was being lifted from the ground by the neck. Who is that person? Many students remembered how Su Ping had ridden that dragon on campus. It was certain that Su Ping was someone with a powerful background. But this is the Valiant Academy. Basically, all the enrolled students were from influential families, or they were future family heads. Fei Tianyi was not from the most influential family, comparatively speaking, but he was without a doubt the most talented one. How could they believe he could end up like this? Not to mention that Han Yuxiang, Fei Tianyi's teacher and vice principal, was right there. How bold of him. Mr. Su, don't be mad. Calm down, please. He's just a kid, Han Yuxiang said in haste. He wanted to stop Su Ping but was afraid. After all, Su Ping had killed legendary battle pet warriors before. Han Yuxiang was trying his utmost to avoid angering Su Ping further. The student's jaws fell. Han Yuxiang is trying to calm Su Ping down. Isn't he going to help Fei Tianyi? Mo Fengping and Su Kuang had lost their voices. How audacious of Su Ping, and how scared Han Yuxiang was of Su Ping. Think about it. Su Ping was humiliating Han Yuxiang's favorite student. Why is he able to hold back his anger? Can you tell me now? Su Ping looked at the young man he held in a vice grip. Since the attempt to calm him down had failed, Han Yuxiang changed his target of persuasion to Fei Tianyi. Will you just tell Mr. Su? Otherwise, I won't be able to save you. Fei Tianyi could not believe that his teacher had just said those words. Humiliated as he was, he could tell that Su Ping did have the courage to make the final, killing move. I will. Fei Tianyi squeezed out 2 words. It was embarrassing to admit defeat in public, but compared to humiliation, survival was more important. That was the prerequisite for revenge. Su Ping released him. Fei Tianyi staggered back a little bit and rubbed his neck. He didn't conceal the anger in his eyes. He saw that Han Yuxiang was visibly worried. Fei Tianyi eventually decided not to take any risks at the current moment. There had to be something about the man since it had scared Han Yuxiang so. Even though Fei Tianyi was sure he could defeat a lot of titled battle pet warriors, he believed the smart thing to do right then was to keep a low profile since the man was a mysterious character. I will tell you. He took a deep breath, his face still dark. I went in there and went up level by level until I reached the 16th. I found no traces, so I got out. That's it, Su Ping raised his eyebrows. Did you find any clues she might have left behind? 11:11. Fei Tianyi said nothing. He was just following Han Yuxiang's orders as a mere formality. Of course he noticed nothing, given such approach. He found no trace of her, and he got out to report his mission. I didn't, Fei Tianyi said finally. Of course, he wasn't going to say he didn't look. I went in there trying to find a girl and I found no girl. What more does he want? Su Ping pulled a long face. He thought he could ask about clues, but it turned out that Fei Tianyi was of no use. I will go in and take a look, Su Ping said. Han Yuxiang tried to stop him. Mr. Su, there's the age limit. Anyone over 24 years old cannot go in, not even a legendary battle pet warrior. I'm not lying to you, sir. Fei Tianyi was surprised by how respectful Han Yuxiang was. I didn't say you lied to me. I know you're too scared to do that. Su Ping pushed Han Yuxiang away and strode past him. Out of instinct, Fei Tianyi stepped to the side to make way for Su Ping. Han Yuxiang hurried after Su Ping. Mr. Su, see, you cannot go in. Han Yuxiang reached the Dragon Tower before Su Ping. However, something invisible stopped Han Yuxiang from entering. Su Ping didn't mind that. He went right through the entrance. Han Yuxiang. He could not understand. How did Su Ping get in? How? The Dragon Tower's strange age limit was a rule that could never be broken, not even by a legendary battle pet warrior. But Su Ping just went in. Han Yuxiang stared as Su Ping vanished with disbelief. So is Su Ping as old as he looks? A titled battle pet warrior who is not even 24 years old. A man younger than 24 was able to kill legendary battle pet warriors. Han Yuxiang was so stunned that he acted as if he had seen a ghost in broad daylight. If that was the case, then Su Ping was without a doubt the most talented man he had ever seen in his entire life. But how? Han Yuxiang's lips trembled. He had seen Su Ping fight. He had always been under the conviction that Su Ping had to use some special potion to keep his youthful appearance. It turned out that he was indeed young. Su Ping turned around and said, "Get that stenographer here to show me the way." Han Yuxiang came back to his senses. Even though he had seen Su Ping many times, he had grasped a completely new perspective of him this day. He's so young. Maybe a little bit too young. Mr. Su, sorry, but how old are you? Han Yuxiang thought he had to ask. Su Ping kept a straight face. Haven't you heard? Don't ask a man about his age. Han Yuxiang didn't know what to say but thought better and didn't ask again. He called the young stenographer over and said, "Follow Mr. Su. Do whatever he tells you to do. Do you understand me?" The young stenographer nodded. He had also seen how Su Ping had picked Fei Tianyi up. He had thought that Su Ping was some senior warrior, but it turned out that he was able to enter the Dragon Tower. Incredible. I understand, sir. The young stenographer nodded. Han Yuxiang patted his shoulder and told him to go over to Su Ping. Su Ping stepped into space with the young stenographer. The students burst into a clamor of comments after Su Ping vanished from their sight. They were still shocked and confused. They shared the young stenographer's feelings. No one could have foreseen that the man would be able to enter the Dragon Tower. Wasn't he supposed to be an elderly warrior? Fei Tianyi felt his mind was blank. His hatred and anger toward Su Ping had become puzzlement. He had thought that Su Ping was some old warrior. It turned out that he was also a young person. Someone his age had just picked him up by the neck, of all things. Fei Tianyi felt humiliated. Su Lingyu's brother. Fine. Let's see which level you can reach. Fei Tianyi stared at the peak with rich killing intent in his eyes. He would immediately challenge Su Ping if he was unable to reach the 18th level. "Sir, who is he?" Mo Fengping approached Han Yuxiang while staring into the dark cave. Han Yuxiang came back to his senses, his heart still fluttered with fear. "He is Su Lingyu's brother, Su Ping. All of you will remember that name." Chapter 576, Silver Scale. Su Ping. Mo Fengping committed that name to memory. He knew that Han Yuxiang was right. At least, he didn't think he could ever forget that intimidating person. A titled battle pet warrior less than 24 years old, so he is just as old as the students, Mo Fengping murmured to himself. "Sir." Su Quang was another stunned witness. All of a sudden, he felt something was waking up inside him. He thought Su Ping was his peer the first time he met him. As Su Ping showed more and more of his skills, Su Quang felt the gap kept on widening, and he was more than willing to call Su Ping his teacher. As time passed, he slowly started to treat Su Ping as a senior. But there, right then, he realized once again that Su Ping was of his age. Su Ping was a teacher he recognized. He remembered how Su Ping had killed titled battle pet warriors at the Elite League and his heroic deeds while protecting the Longjiang base city. Su Quang felt his blood was boiling. He wanted to be like that. Inside the cave to reach the peak, Su Ping and the young stenographer found their way in. "Tell me about the Dragon Tower," Su Ping requested. He could tell that the youth was at the 5th rank, which was not bad considering his age. At least by Longjiang base city standards, he could have been admitted to the best academy. "Of course." The young man was very polite. "Sir, there are 33 levels in the Dragon Tower. The higher it is, the more difficult it becomes. There are evil things and other demonic things, which are more powerful the higher you reach. Reaching the 10th level would mean he or she has a combat strength close to the titled rank. The 13th level means the person has combat strength close to the intermediate position of the titled rank. The 16th level would signify the upper position of the titled rank. The 18th level would imply the peak of the titled rank. It is said that anyone who can reach the 20th level can be named Fate Challenger." "Sir, are you here to find your sister, Miss Su?" "You know her." Su Ping turned to him. The young person felt how Su Ping's gaze fell on him and somehow became nervous. "I met her a couple of times. I don't know her that much. She's nice. She's not like most of the students here. They're too arrogant. They would hardly talk to people like me, if at all." "V." Su Ping nodded. "She was here before she went missing. Were you commissioned here back then? Did you notice anything strange?" The young man shook his head. "I was on duty, but everything was normal. I told the vice principal that she had tried for the 15th one but failed after she reached the 14th level. She left the Dragon Tower and then went missing. I don't know where she could have gone." Su Ping gazed at the young man. "Did you see her leave with your own eyes?" "Yes." The young man nodded, still nervous. Su Ping looked at him. He didn't think the young man was lying, but it made things even more confusing. "She left. So she didn't go missing in the Dragon Tower." Su Ping thought. "Sir, we're about to reach the 1st level." The young man's voice pulled Su Ping back to reality. Standing in front of them was a huge black door. There were other stenographers using the same clothing as the young man. All of them were young, and one of them seemed to be the leader. "Are you here for the challenge?" that apparent leader asked Su Ping. Su Ping darted a look at the door. Since he was already there, he thought it would be good to see the 14th level first. "Yeah," Su Ping nodded. "Sir, this is a position finder. Be careful. You can come out at any time. If you cannot take it, I will keep the record." The young man handed a small silver pin to Su Ping. Su Ping took it over. "Aren't you going with me?" "I cannot even if I wanted to." The young man blushed. Su Ping stuffed the silver pin in his pocket and went toward that black door. Once the door was closed, the other stenographers asked that young man, "Sen, who is that guy? Are you afraid of him?" The nervousness had vanished from that young man. "That is someone we cannot upset. You know well that Senior Fei just got out from this place, right? That person just taught Senior Fei a lesson. The vice principal Han was there when it happened and he didn't do a thing. That guy taught Senior Faye a lesson. No. The vice principal didn't stop that man. Are you kidding, man? The young man's peers were full of doubts. The young man named Sen didn't elaborate. Bang! The door closed. Su Ping felt he was in a different world. He could no longer feel anything from outside. There was a dim-lit passageway in front of him. The lighting came from the lamps hung on the walls. The light flickered, casting a red hue to the passage. Su Ping felt somewhat uncomfortable as he gazed into the passageway. It was as if something were staring at him in the darkness. That discomforting sense was getting stronger as he moved onward. Su Ping soon realized why he was feeling so uncomfortable. It was his instincts sending him a warning. Something could hurt me here. Su Ping was surprised. According to that young man, he was at the first level of the Dragon Tower. Even the average student would be able to get through that level. Why was he feeling danger? So was this danger from elsewhere, from someone further inside? Su Ping didn't waste time thinking about it. He strode forward. Either way, since he was already there, he had to make the trip worthwhile. Not long after, he began to smell some blood in the air. Following that, Su Ping saw that some dark mist was oozing out from the cracks on the walls. It turned into a ghost that pounced at him. Consciousness? Su Ping frowned. He didn't think that was real. It was his consciousness playing tricks in his mind. Boom! Inside his mind, a blade was formed with his killing intent, and the ghost disappeared. Everything went back to normal. Su Ping continued his journey. He reached a staircase soon after. There was another opening at the end of the steps. Su Ping went inside. Another wide passageway extended in front of him, which looked quite similar. Is this the second level? Did he pass the first level? But he didn't encounter any strikes from the so-called evil or demonic things as told by that young man. Or was that thing that disturbed his consciousness the evil and demonic thing he would have to face? Su Ping went on. He didn't hurry because he wanted to spend time observing the place. Some time had already passed, but he wanted to find any possible trace left by Su Lingyu. Maybe it had been too long indeed. Su Ping picked up some scents, but none belonged to Su Lingyu. The strongest trace of all was the one left by that student surnamed Fei. Wu Tilde. Right after, the dark mist began to seep out from the walls again. That blade formed with killing intent was wielded, and the mist disappeared once again. The third level, the fourth level, and the fifth level. Soon, Su Ping had reached the 10th level. He encountered an evil thing, but it wasn't a strike on his consciousness this time. It was a tangible strike. The 10th level was no longer a passageway. It was a seemingly boundless place. It was like a complete mysterious realm. A large number of evil creatures approached him. Those things smelled strongly of blood, and they had twisted features. Su Ping unleashed astral powers that killed all those evil creatures. I don't think I can summon battle pets here, so she climbed to the 14th level all by herself. Really, he found that the local space was strange. No matter how he tried, he was unable to open the swirl. He was just like a common man without battle pets. But he was still able to clearly feel his connection with the little skeleton and the Inferno dragon. So, this is a thing left behind by someone at the star rank. There must be some laws established, Su Ping said to himself. He could not use battle pets, nor figure out how Su Lingyu had climbed to the 14th level by herself. That young stenographer was correct. The local, evil things were close to the titled rank. But Su Lingyu was merely at the 5th rank when she first entered the academy. Say she had managed to progress by leaps and bounds, the best she would have been able to do was to reach the 6th rank. She had a long way to go before she could reach the 9th rank. Su Ping was unable to find answers. He believed he would have to ask Han Yuxiang about this. The boundless place began to fade away as the evil things were killed. Su Ping reached the end of the area. There was a door with the digit 11 next to it. It was clear that someone had carved the number there. Su Ping looked around. There was no blood nor other trace of battles, nor any traces of Su Lingyu. He went up to the 11th level. Time zipped by. He reached the 14th level. He punched out and killed all the evil creatures. Su Ping looked at that space. Was that the place where Su Lingyu had managed to reach? He expanded his perception to the extreme. He then suddenly found the piece of a scale in a corner. It was a silver scale, the size of a nail. It smells of her and the Moonfrost Dragon, but I don't think the Moonfrost Dragon had such small scales. She couldn't have summoned it here. Su Ping began to ask himself while staring at the scale. He was sure that the scale had been left there by Su Lingyu. She had put up a hell of a fight there. After some pondering, Su Ping decided to put away the scale first. Chapter 577, Hidden Passageway. Where could she have gone after this? Su Ping wondered, hiss. Right then, dark and bloody mist formed demons and ghosts moved towards Su Ping. He thought of an idea. Su Lingyu's disappearance could at least have something to do with that place. If he wanted to ask about her, those ghosts and demons would be the perfect witnesses. Perfect timing. It just so happens that there's a spot for a pet. Let's see what we can find, Su Ping said to himself. He didn't have too many contracts. He had room for another pet. Those demons and ghosts were unworthy of being his pets, but he could simply cancel that contract after he was done searching its memory. Of course, he would have to go back to his store. After all, he would have to endure a week period after canceling the contract. He could be in danger during that period. Su Ping grabbed a two-headed creature without hesitation. That creature was covered in a highly corrosive blood mist. It wanted to get free, but Su Ping grabbed one of the heads right after. He didn't mask his killing intent. The creature's ferocity was soon exchanged for terror. It looked at Su Ping, trembling. Su Ping immediately placed the contract on its head. Bzzz. The contract seeped into the creature's head. The next second, Su Ping felt a mist of darkness appear in front of him. Something extremely terrifying was coming towards him, and he heard a roar. That roar pierced the sky. He felt that he lost his hearing. Su Ping was stunned. The roar made him feel utterly small. It seemed to belong to a giant. Soon, Su Ping came back to his senses. He noticed that the contract had disappeared as if something had annulled it. He failed. The creature shed his timid demeanor. It shouted wildly, suddenly bursting into a mist of blood. That mist surrounded Su Ping. He saw a vision with a large number of people as they fought those evil creatures. All of a sudden, Su Ping fixed his gaze on one of those people. It was Su Lingyu. However, that Su Lingyu was not like he remembered her. Her face was the same and so was her height, but there were silver scales on her hands, face, and neck. Su Ping suddenly remembered that small silver scale he had picked up moments before. Does that scale belong to her? How did she become like that? He saw through the blood mist that the silver-scaled Su Lingyu was quite powerful. She was as able as a titled battle pet warrior. She fought the demon creatures and used some skills that Su Ping had seen before. Those were mandatory skills taught in the academy. The images disappeared while Su Ping was observing. He was in a dark and quiet place, but something was gazing at him. He didn't know how much time had passed, but a path then appeared in front of him. Unlike the other passageways he had visited, the walls weren't dried and cracked. They were actually flesh and blood. Su Ping could not believe this. Was that the truth about the Dragon Tower? Roar! Dark mist kept whooshing out from that passageway, with walls made with flesh and blood. It turned into massive creatures that pounced at Su Ping. Su Ping used his finger as a sword. Some creatures were torn apart with a bang. There were wounds on the fleshly walls. Even so, the flesh wiggled and the cuts on the walls disappeared quickly. Su Ping turned around. He could no longer see the way back. There was no way back for him. Establishing the contract failed. Those creatures aren't individual beings, they are one. Su Ping frowned as he stared at the walls made of flesh and blood. That dragon tower was strange. He was no longer able to see boundless worlds. All that was left in front of him was that passageway. This should not be normal, Su Ping told himself. He wasn't sure about it. Was it part of the 14th level's testing? If not, it was because he had tried to sign a contract with that creature. That roaring thing should be the true form of that creature. Su Ping took it more seriously. With his experience in many cultivation sites, he was able to tell that the master of that consciousness should at least be at the star rank. However, that creature was not in its prime state. It would have already destroyed the blue planet if otherwise. He thought about it but still decided not to go up the stairs. More and more evil creatures came out as he made his way upward. Su Ping made use of his sin cutter to kill those evil creatures. He had become quite proficient with it. He was able to inflict great harm on those creatures, even while using his fingers instead of wielding a blade. He could even kill a person at the titled rank with his finger, easily. Soon, he encountered a different creature. That was an insect with spikes like a pangolin, but this creature was 2 to 3 meters long. Of course, it wasn't a large size compared to other pets, but that insect was scary. It was fast, and the claws in its teeth were very sharp. That thing is at the upper position of the titled rank, at least. Su Ping was surprised. He didn't know where he was at the Dragon Tower, but he was sure that the creature was terrifying. Lucky for me and bad for you, this is a narrow space. More and more creatures were swarming over. Anyone would have felt their blood freezing by then, but not Su Ping. He clenched his fists. A virtual hand whooshed out. The fist of Exorcist pressed on with tremendous force. The virtual hand pushed away all the insects. Some of them were smashed into the fleshly walls, and some were split on the spot. Su Ping didn't stop there. Rays of sword light were shot from his fingers. He slit those that weren't dead yet. As Su Ping was pressing on outside the dark door at the base of the Dragon Tower, the young stenographer named Sen and his friends were standing in front of a device not far from the dark door. There was a map of the entire Dragon Tower, which indicated the levels but no other details. A red dot with the number 1 was pressing upward. That's level 15, holy cow. Look at him go. He used less than 10 minutes to reach level 15 from level 1. Was that just a walk for him? Level 17. Make it 19. Those young people were stunned into stillness as the red dot climbed up. The glow from the device lit up their surprised faces. The young man known as Sen was not doing any better. He had seen how strong Su Ping was outside, but that was completely unexpected. The man had reached level 19 in an instant. Even Fei Tianyi, the best student in the past century, had merely managed to reach level 18. He had only made the record to see it being broken by someone else. Look, 20, a young man pointed it out. All his friends wore dull expressions. No one was able to say a thing. That's a pungent smell of death. Su Ping killed his way forward, leaving insect corpses behind. The king of those insects was at the peak of the titled rank, and its back shell was so strong that they could be harder than dragon scales. Su Ping didn't know exactly what those creatures were. Their scales were hard and their claws sharp. Su Ping had accidentally received some blood marks on his arms by accident. But his skin and flesh were unusually tough. He had gone through heaven's tests and he was reinforcing the solar bulwark. He had also spent a lot of time in Joanna's spring. He could be tougher than a dragon of the same rank, and yet the insects could hurt him. Did she run into those things? But the young man said she left the Dragon Tower, so she didn't encounter that strange thing, Su Ping said to himself. He was seeing some puffs and wisps of darkness. The smell of death was so thick he was able to see them with his eyes. Any creature that came in touch with the smell of death could lose years of lifespan. That would also happen to the average people. Chapter 578. A Roar from Time Immemorial. The smell of death is similar to that found in Ashura City. Su Ping had learned the sin cutter from Dusk in Ashura City. Ashura City was a place for the dead. There were no living creatures, only ghosts, skeletons, and beings of the like. Dusk was the only living creature. He had once been a god servant who was later transformed into an Ashura by drinking the former Ashura king's blood. Su Ping was naturally surprised to find such a strong scent of death in the Valiant Academy, right at the heart of the Longyang base city. He touched those wisps of darkness with his fingers. Those dark strands were immediately dispersed upon touch. Su Ping's finger remained unharmed after making contact. Since Dusk had asked him to drink the blood of the Ashura king, he had assimilated its strength. That was why he had been able to learn the sin cutter to begin with. The Ashura king had once been the leader of that world. Therefore, the smell of death was completely unable to injure him. Let's see what's at the end of this path. Su Ping made up his mind. The Dragon Tower was indeed strange. It was ridiculous that the academy was letting its students train and test their skills in such a wicked and dangerous location. It was very likely that the teachers and students had failed to see the secret of the Dragon Tower. Otherwise, the academy would have never allowed its students to enter. All of them belonged to influential families and were quite talented on their own right. Losing any of them would be a tremendous loss for the human king as a whole. But how come he had stumbled across that secret? Su Ping was quite confused. Is it because of my good looks? Of course not. But Su Ping was unable to think of anything else that made him stand out. The system? Not likely. Was it because of the solar bulwark or the Ashura king's energy? Su Ping supposed those were the things that no one in the Valiant Academy could have. After all, he got the solar bulwark from the system, and it was a long-lost skill. As for the Ashura king's energy, it wasn't a thing from the blue planet. The Ashura king family was large, and they had a star rank bloodline. Any of their members would be able to reach the star rank after some training. Su Ping decided not to dwell on the subject. He would immediately kill the insects whenever they crawled out from the flesh and blood walls. As of that moment, he was barely able to kill the insects with his fingers alone. Insects were larger and their shells harder in that place. They were quite similar to beast kings. Or, the weaker ones from before were like children, whereas those ones were the adults. He began to wield the sword that Dusk had given him. That was a star-rank sword. The energy formerly contained in the sword had been enough to shatter space and time. The power had been drained, but the sharpness remains the same. Even so, Su Ping still found that killing those insects with the sword didn't turn out to be easy. He felt the insects were even tougher than diamonds. If this were a cultivation site, those insects could turn out to be quite good training partners. Su Ping killed his way forward. While those adult insects were able to fight like legendary battle pet warriors, since they had extremely sharp claws and hard shells, Su Ping was not a weak fighter. He held the sword tightly in his hand. Su Ping was getting tired due to continuous fighting. However, he realized to his delight he could still talk to them, even though he was unable to summon them to fight. Besides, he could leverage the energy of his battle pets. A titled battle pet warrior could also use energy synchronization. He could leverage his battle pet's strength while they stayed in the contract space. His battle pets could lend him energy constantly. Of course, his battle pets were unable to give him all of their energy. There would be some loss in transmission as well. Despite that, Su Ping was still able to use the little skeleton's energy to make sure that he would always stay in his prime state. After all, the little skeleton was inside the contract space and didn't need any energy. Bang, bang, bang. He killed dozens of insects. He noticed that the corrosion and decay on the walls were getting worse. The flesh and blood were quite fresh at the very beginning, but the color on the walls was dull. The air was full of a foul and disgusting smell. Su Ping was suddenly curious about what was inside the decaying flesh wall. He found a spot and cut open the flesh wall with his sword. The smell of decay was getting thicker as he went further in. Lucky for Su Ping, he had spent a lot of time in a harsh environment. Therefore, he was getting used to it after the initial stage of uncomfortableness. He felt he was once again in a cultivation site. Are those things bones, and those are they blood vessels? Su Ping walked forward in the wall of flesh, making his way with his sword. To his surprise, the walls did seem to be flesh indeed, with bones and decaying blood vessels. The profound smell of blood was spreading everywhere. Su Ping cut the flesh again. He found himself in another passageway. It turned out that he had walked around and gone back to where he started. Is this the Dragon Tower, or am I in some strange space? Su Ping wondered. He thought about the Dragon Bone Tower in the Longtai Mountain. It had been left on the side for the Dragon King to pick out a recipient of its legacy. Was that place the same thing? Only Su Ping was unable to feel the tests. The insects could have killed legendary battle pet warriors. After all, legendary battle pet warriors were forbidden to take out their battle pets, nor merge with them. They would not be able to win against those insects by only relying on themselves. What the legendary battle pet warriors knew best was to merge with their battle pets, which could increase their strength over time. The demonic things are becoming fewer and so are the insects, but the smell of death is getting stronger. What is that sound? Su Ping kept advancing. He heard something all of a sudden and focused his attention to listen. The further ahead he was, the clearer that sound was. Is that some sort of roar? Some ancient beast was snarling. That sound was not clearly audible. It still sounded as if located far, far away. Besides, Su Ping heard a muffled sound, akin to something colliding. That noise was getting clearer and clearer as well. The world can end, but we will never stop. In the name of Heaven Killer. All of a sudden, originating from the sound's general direction, something was shouting from a far, far off distance. That shout was penetrating through time and space alike. Even though Su Ping had met many terrifying creatures, he had been stunned by that shout. Is someone there? Su Ping gazed into the distance, but he didn't perceive any breath. He was sure that those words weren't said to him. He felt that it was like a clip of audio left in space and time, played on a phonograph. It was not someone speaking right there in reality. It was an echo in space. But how mighty would that creature have to be to prevent its shout from being erased over time? Su Ping suddenly felt scared. He didn't want to go further. However, he looked back and only saw darkness. There was no way back. After a moment of silence, Su Ping decided to press forward. The number of insects was decreasing. New evil creatures swarmed out from the decaying flesh and blood. The evil creatures were large, much more powerful than the ones that Su Ping had seen before. Those evil creatures had tangible bodies. They weren't merely illusions anymore. Finish it. Su Ping made up his mind. He wielded his sword, and a ray of dark sword light lit up the bleak world. Boom! He poured divine energy into that move. The ray of sword light smashed away all the evil creatures up ahead. Nothing would stop him. Nothing. Whoosh! Su Ping dashed on, sword in hand. He could hear demons whisper, and he could once again hear that roar from the distance. It was a roar of fury. The world can end, but we will never. Stop. Those words of anger stimulated Su Ping. He could no longer control his killing intent. He had been provoked. Just the words themselves had made him furious. He could not even begin to think what kind of power was within those words. Boom! Another evil creature died. Su Ping saw the end of the road all of a sudden. The end. It was another decaying wall of flesh. Whoosh! Su Ping cut into the flesh wall again and again, giving in. With a bang, the flesh wall finally gave in. The moment he cut the wall open, the decaying and smell of breath swarmed out as if finally found a way out. At the same time, Su Ping noticed that the snarl was getting further and further away and the voice's voice was lowering. He had heard a shrill call and the next second the view changed. The world he knew vanished in front of his eyes. Only a ray of glaring sword light was about to reach him. Su Ping had never seen anything like that. He felt as if something were cutting him and that he was dying. However, the next second, he saw that the ray of sword light was stopped. Dark blood was being spilled. A finger was cut and it fell. All the views disappeared with a whoosh. Su Ping found that he was still standing in that passageway. He could see the blue sky from the cut. The sky. Su Ping was surprised. He stepped toward the cut. He crawled out and saw moss around the opening, as well as black iron chains nailed to the ground. The illusion he had seen flashed past his eyes again. He could not help but look around. Soon after, he was able to see many tiny dots on the distant ground below. That was Han Yuxiang, Su Quang, and the other students here. He was at the top of the Dragon Tower. Su Ping was unable to believe it. I went past the passageway and arrived at the top. What? Inside the Dragon Tower, just outside the first floor's black door, Stenographer Sen and his stenographer friends were stunned into stillness as they peered in front of their device. That signal climbed up from the 20th to the 33rd level. The device has to be broken. That has to be it. The stenographers returned to their sane minds. They could see the shared confusion in each other's eyes. The device had never been broken, ever since they became stenographers. I must report to the vice principal, Sen said in a hurry. Huh. Han Yuxiang felt something as he stood in front of the Dragon Tower. He looked up out of instinct to see the tower's top. He thought he had heard a shout there. There was also something evil coming down from up there. Han Yuxiang could not believe his eyes. He focused his eyes. He saw a person standing there. To be exact, flying there. Su Ping. Wasn't he in the tower? Han Yuxiang was baffled. He had seen Su Ping entering the tower with his very own eyes, and he had been waiting there. There was but one exit. When did Su Ping get there? Mo Fengping noticed the strangeness of his teacher, so he looked up at the top as well. He had the same expression on his face soon after. Whoosh! Su Ping flew up. He noticed that the smell of evil and death was trying to reach him. Some evil creatures were grimacing at him, but they didn't approach him, as if afraid of something. Su Ping frowned. The evil creatures found at that spot were close to the void state, but they didn't have that many special skills. Still, the smell of death around the evil creatures was enough to scare people to death. The evil creatures could even make beautiful illusions to confuse people. Are they afraid of light? Su Ping was surprised. The evil creatures were lingering in the shade. It was amazing for those evil creatures to keep being afraid of the sun. The sun could not hurt people unless someone got sunburned. If the evil creatures were afraid of sunlight, then he could put something over the cut to stop them from coming out. Wait, I don't think it has to do with the light. They're afraid to come out at all. Su Ping then noticed that one of the evil creatures was out of the shade, but nothing happened. Anyway, the evil creatures were not afraid of him. They were fearlessly rushing at him. I left a hole here. If those evil creatures get out, the academy, the entire Longyang base city, and even the subcontinent district would be doomed. Su Ping frowned. He had created one great mess. The number of evil creatures inside was large. Some were close to the void state. The academy would see the end of its days if they got out. I wonder how much the academy knows about the Dragon Tower's secret. I'll have to ask them. So much trouble. Su Ping was getting impatient. He had gone there to find his sister. Not only had he not found her yet when that happened, he didn't like the academy at all. Of course, he could not allow himself to let those evil creatures and insects out. He wouldn't go as far as wanting something like destroying the world just because he had lost his sister. Whoosh! Su Ping flew away. Those evil creatures were unable to get out for the time being. He could go and ask Han Yuxiang first. At least, he had to inform someone, or else it would be too late to come up with a remedy. Su Ping took a look back. That peak was massive. All of a sudden, he was seeing that illusion again. The sword, the finger, the shout. Su Ping thought of an impossible thing. He flew away from the peak. After moving away for thousands of meters, Su Ping looked back. His blood froze. Chapter 579, Heaven Killer. That peak was magnificent, but there was a bend, like the number 7. No, it was more like a finger. A finger. How unimaginably queer. That peak was a broken finger. The finger he had seen in that illusion. If that was the case, then how large would the creature have to be? Su Ping was unable to make a sound. He wouldn't have thought about that possibility if it weren't for the fact that he had seen quite a number of magnificent creatures in cultivation sites. In some of them, such as the chaotic realm of the undead, he had encountered massive creatures whose corpses could turn into mountains. This Dragon Tower is the finger of that person who called himself Heaven Killer. That Heaven Killer must be above the star rank, terrifying. The Dragon Tower that the Academy used to test its students is actually a broken finger. Su Ping was more and more convinced that it was indeed a broken finger. The evil creatures and insects he had seen inside were most likely things growing out of the decaying tissue. Those insects feasted on the flesh and blood of the finger. No wonder their claws could be so sharp and their shells so hard. I wonder how long ago the Heaven Killer passed away. I saw the illusions and heard the shout. The finger must have recorded all of that. Su Ping was stunned. The finger was still there. The images and sounds still worked after God knows when. He could not even begin to imagine how powerful that Heaven Killer had been. Joanna should know something about this. I can ask her, Su Ping said to himself. Joanna's original self was a just second to the superior god in the demigod burial, but he wasn't sure if the superior god of the demigod burial was the same as the one of the Archean divinity. Either way, Joanna's original self should be at, or above, the star rank. Su Ping took one last look at the peak. That wasn't the priority at the moment. It didn't matter to him whether the peak was a finger or not. The top priority was to find Su Lingyu and the second to plug the hole on the peak. Whoosh! He flew toward the people standing in front of the Dragon Tower. Some students with an acute sense of perception shouted, "Someone's coming." The other students turned over. All the students acted as if they had seen a ghost when they saw that it was Su Ping. Many people even wondered if that was Su Ping's twin. They looked exactly alike. "Mr. Su." Han Yuxiang, although surprised, hurried over. "You were inside the Dragon Tower. How come?" "I came down from the top," Su Ping said after he stood on the ground. Fei Tianyi stared at Su Ping from a distance, clearly confused. He also heard Su Ping's voice. Twins could look alike, but they didn't necessarily sound alike. That was scary. The Dragon Tower had one opening that was known by all students and teachers. People had seen how Su Ping entered the Dragon Tower. It was unreasonable to think that he had exited the place from the top. The top. Han Yuxiang raised his head. At the same time, he found himself feeling stupid, having bought Su Ping's claim. If he had descended straight from the top, it would mean that Su Ping had pierced through the Dragon Tower. The Dragon Tower had 33 levels, but it was just a rumor, never verified. The highest level that anyone had ever reached was the 22nd level. The record had been set by one of the best students the Academy had ever had. No one else had gone past that. After all, the tower had that strange age rule. Not even legendary battle pet warriors could break that rule. Legendary battle pet warriors had visited the Academy in the past, but none of them had been able to break into the Dragon Tower. Also, more than one legendary battle pet warrior had tried. That was why the Academy had concluded that legendary battle pet warriors were unable to bypass the age limit. As for the rumor of 33 levels, they had measured the height from outside and calculated it according to the height of each level. Han Yuxiang remembered that the student that reached the 22nd level had been known as the Fate Challenger of that time. He had killed legendary battle pet warriors and beast kings. He began to wander around the blue planet. He later encountered the good and evil heavenly king and died. Otherwise, he would have even become the king of legendary battle pet warriors, the master of the tower. "Mr. Su, the Dragon Tower has but one opening. Were you really inside?" Han Yuxiang had to ask. He had seen Su Ping on the top, but he suspected that he had been there all along. The figure that had gone inside the tower had surely been some sort of illusion. After all, the thought of Su Ping having gone past all levels of the Dragon Tower was even more far-fetched. Su Ping didn't bother to explain. "I don't think you understand what the Dragon Tower is. Get your principal here, I have to tell him something. Also, the boy who showed me the way in told me that my sister had left the Dragon Tower and went missing after that. Don't you have surveillance cameras on campus?" The principal. "Why?" Mo Fengping felt a bit scared. The principal was the true brain of the Academy. He was a legendary battle pet warrior, revered by all the students as well as the teachers. Mo Fengping was not happy, seeing that Su Ping was mentioning the principal in such a rude manner. No matter how powerful Su Ping was, he could not compare to a legendary battle pet warrior. "What are you talking about?" Fei Tianyi walked over with a cloudy face. You don't deserve to meet the principal. I saw that you were able to enter the Dragon Tower, so I regard you as my peer. I don't know what trick you pulled either way. I can challenge you since you're my peer. Su Ping glared at him. Challenge me? You're not worthy. Are you afraid? Fei Tianyi narrowed his eyes. A glint of coldness flashed past Su Ping's eyes. Anyone who aimed killing intent at him would be courting death. A person hurried over when he was about to do something. It was the young man who had led the way for Su Ping. The young man was stunned still when he saw Su Ping standing there. He could not understand. He had just gone out from the Dragon Tower. If Su Ping were to exit, he should have been behind him. Why is he here? Was Su Ping really inside? The young man's head was in a blank. Han Yuxiang noticed the young man's strange expression. The former grabbed the young man and pulled him over across space. What are you doing? I told you to guide Mr. Su Ping. Where did you go? The young man was still in a daze when Han Yuxiang's question pulled him back to his senses. Vice Principal, I was there with Mr. Su. Mr. Su chose the challenge. But I don't know, why is he here? Nonsense. You said Mr. Su took the challenge. What about his record? Han Yuxiang shouted. The young man finally realized what he ought to do. He looked at Su Ping as if the latter were a monster while his lips trembled. I have the record. It's right here. He lifted the bronze book which carried the record. Han Yuxiang was confused. What? The young man jogged to reach the black tablet and place the bronze book in the opening. The black tablet was activated. A ray of golden light climbed up and soon reached first place. Fei Tianyi's name was in that location. The golden light continued to rise. Another name was added. Fei Tianyi was ranked down to No. 2. A new name was atop Fei Yishan. Su Ping. Behind that name was the number 33. No one made a sound. The formerly chatty onlookers were completely silent. Everyone was staring at that name and that number. Astonishment froze on Fei Tianyi's face. Level 33. Su Ping passed all the levels. This broke the record. It seemed like a joke. Han Yuxiang, Mo Fengping, and Su Kuang were also dumbstruck. Su Ping, on the other hand, didn't care for it. He had never cared about any ranking. The point was to find Su Lingyu. To enter in their rankings meant nothing to him. He would be happier if he could make more money in his store. It was true. The young man was stunned speechless. The recording device was not broken. I said, get your principal here, do it. I won't be held responsible if something goes wrong, Su Ping repeated grumpily, which pulled Han Yuxiang back to reality. Su Ping was losing patience. He was anxious to find Su Lingyu to begin with, but he had to deal with the whole first. Han Yuxiang asked Su Ping again, Mr. Su, did you really come out from the top? Do I get money from lying to you? Well, Han Yuxiang didn't know what to say. Money, that shouldn't be a word said by you. But Han Xiangyu didn't dare to ask more questions, though he was still stunned. He had suffered a blow when he had found out Su Ping's age. He couldn't even find a word to describe his feeling since he had verified that Su Ping had climbed to the 33rd level. And yet, it didn't seem so outrageous considering all the stories related to Su Ping. Of course, that could not relieve Han Yuxiang of his confusion at all. How could someone below 24 years of age become like this? Su Ping was not a talent, he was a monster. He would be considered as one of the best, even in the Federation. Han Yuxiang developed more reverence for Su Ping, who was going to leave the blue planet and roam the universe sooner or later. Some talents passed away and some had left the blue planet to find a wider world where they could better develop. Han Yuxiang shook his head. And why are you asking for the principal? You won't understand. It is a big deal, that's all I'll say. It is a matter of life and death for all of your academy and even the entire subcontinent district. Su Ping was getting bored. He didn't sugarcoat anything. Han Yuxiang realized that Su Ping was not joking, but that made the matter all the more baffling. A matter of life and death for the entire subcontinent district. Su Ping came here to find his sister, right? Where did this come from? He should have gone to the principal right away. While he couldn't find an answer, Han Yuxiang did not badger Su Ping again since he was getting impatient. The principal is too elusive. I don't know where he is. I will call him, but I'm not sure. Stop talking, make the call. Of course. Han Yuxiang called the principal at once. Fei Tianyi finally came back to his senses. He looked at Su Ping, but the latter didn't see that. Su Ping was gazing at an indistinct place while he was thinking. Fei Tianyi curled his lips. Even though he was the most talented student the academy had nurtured in the past century, the best of that year, he was being ignored. This guy. Fei Tianyi bit his teeth and clenched his fists. He had never been ignored. He had always been under the spotlight when he was with his family and when he was in school. He had always been in the lead. Right then, he suddenly remembered the students who had tried to challenge him, but he chose to ignore them. Was he like that to this man? Fei Tianyi felt even more humiliated and furious. While Fei Tianyi was deep in his thoughts, the students were shocked by Su Ping's big talk. A matter of life and death for the academy and the subcontinent district. Yeah, right, how could this guy know something so grave? Some were thinking that Su Ping was bluffing, and some were starting to believe what he had said. Yes, right indeed him. Han Yuxiang seemed to be very respectful. He had set up a soundproof seal around him. Soon, the call ended. He waited for the principal to hang up first. Han Yuxiang canceled the seal and told Su Ping, "Mr. Su, he's on his way." Su Ping nodded. "You haven't answered my question yet. My sister left the Dragon Tower. This isn't the place where she was last seen. Can't you find out where she went?" Chapter 580, Gather the Students. Well, Han Yuxiang sounded nervous. I checked, but the surveillance failed during that period of time. Something was wrong with the system. I could not find anything out. Failed? Su Ping sneered. This is the best academy in the subcontinent district, and you're telling me the surveillance failed. Does that happen often or not as much? It had never happened before, only this time. Han Yuxiang felt embarrassed. Is that so? You're not going to tell me that this is all just a big coincidence, are you? No, it's not a coincidence. Back then, I realized that something might have gone wrong, so I inspected all the surveillance seals around the area, but I didn't find anything suspicious. Han Yuxiang defended himself. Su Ping narrowed his eyes. Did you not find anything wrong, or did you find something but were afraid to tell? Su Ping was aware that the Valiant Academy gathered students from families and forces with complicated connections. Even Han Yuxiang was afraid to displease those factions. A case in point would be that guy surnamed Fei, who was said to be Han Yuxiang's student. The former didn't show any due respect to his teacher. Han Yuxiang was a bit pale. He clearly understood what Su Ping was implying. Su Ping had shown a level of sophistication uncommon in a man in his 20s, but entering the Dragon Tower was proof that he was under 24. Han Yuxiang could not imagine who this guy's teacher was. I honestly didn't find anything. That is the truth, Han Yuxiang insisted. Su Ping didn't comment on that. Show me the recordings of the surveillance seal from that day. Sure thing, Han Yuxiang nodded. He kept the record, thinking that he might use it one day. When the principal comes, Han Yuxiang was hesitant. When he comes, tell him to find me. Okay, sure. Han Yuxiang was afraid to upset Su Ping. The principal was at the legendary rank, but Su Ping was a person who was able to kill those legendary practitioners. Han Yuxiang knew a few things about the legendary rank. It was said that the principal was merely at the first state of the legendary rank. The Qin family's legendary battle pet warrior, whom Su Ping Ha killed during the Supremacy League, was at the first state of the legendary rank as well. As such, Han Yuxiang had reason to believe that Su Ping and the principal should be well matched. Su Ping might be even more intimidating, as a matter of fact. Mo Fengping had witnessed how afraid his teacher was of Su Ping. Han Yuxiang had kept his panicky attitude the entire time. Su Ping turned to be more and more mysterious. Fei Tianyi was angered by Su Ping's casual responses. Arrogant as Fei Tianyi was, he held the principal in awe and respect. After all, the principal was at the legendary. rank. But that was not the only thing that made the principal respectable. He was a man of irreproachable conduct. However, Su Ping was not showing any due respect, which was unacceptable for Fei Tianyi. That being said, he didn't step forward to condemn Su Ping or anything. He was sure that if that record of the Dragon Tower was the truth, he was, in all likelihood, an unworthy opponent. Han Yuxiang's attitude toward Su Ping was another point. The vice principal led the way with Su Ping following him, and Fei Tianyi followed after Su Ping. The latter thought that he could take the chance to meet the principal. Many students were thinking the same thing. A lot of them went after Han Yuxiang, looking forward to finding out what was going to happen. Soon after, they arrived at another building. That was the center of surveillance of the entire academy. Han Yuxiang told the students to wait outside when he went into the building with Su Ping, Mo Fengping, Su Kuang, and Fei Tianyi. Han Yuxiang told the man in charge of the place to show them the surveillance record of the afternoon in question. Su Ping stood in front of the device. A projector lit up and displayed the recording on a wall. Su Ping saw Su Lingyu in that recording. It seemed that she had grown up a bit. She was more experienced, no longer looking like a spoiled little girl like she was when she lived in the Longjiang base city. She had matured after being out by herself, living an independent life. Su Ping's thoughts wandered. He watched the recording for about 30 minutes when he heard some noises, and some students cheering and screaming in surprise. Mo Fengping, Su Kuang, and Fei Tianyi turned to look in the door's general direction. They had an idea of who was coming and were looking forward to verifying this guess. Fei Tianyi seemed to be the least excited of the three, but the glow in his eyes gave him away. Soon, an old man wearing a white robe went through the door. He wore a blue hat and had the looks of a scholar. He had the air of a refined and learned man, and if one observed carefully, they would see that he was also quite powerful. "Sir, nice to meet you, sir." "Sir." They greeted the principal at once. Han Yuxiang hurried to the principal. "Sir, Mr. Su is waiting for you." "I understand." The old man nodded. He gazed at the young man who was watching the recordings. A glint of seriousness passed his eyes. He soon adjusted himself, put on a kind smile, and stepped over to meet the young man. "You must be the Fate Challenger. Nice to meet you." "Fate Challenger?" Mo Fengping, Su Kuang, and Fei Tianyi stared at Su Ping in disbelief. "Su Ping is a Fate Challenger." Everyone knew the significance of the title. It was exclusive to those at the titled rank, but was given to those who could defeat legendary battle pet warriors. There were fewer Fate Challengers than legendary battle pet warriors. Su Ping is a Fate Challenger. Fei Tianyi could not believe this. This guy was able to enter the Dragon Tower. Not only did he reach a higher rank, but is also a Fate Challenger. This meant that he was much more powerful. Fei Tianyi remembered the record of the Dragon Tower and felt his heart skip a beat. If Su Ping was a Fate Challenger, making it to the 33rd level would be an acceptable feat. But Fei Tianyi was already the best student of the year and was claimed to be the best one in the past 100 years. And yet, he was much inferior when compared to Su Ping. Could this guy even be real? Su Ping heard the greeting and looked away from the projection. He unleashed some astral power to freeze the recording in case he would miss something. "Are you the principal?" Su Ping looked at the old man whose blue hat was unable to conceal all of his white hair. He then noticed something interesting about the old man. "Are you at the legendary rank?" The old man smiled and cupped his fists. "Barely. That is not worth mentioning, Fate Challenger Su." "How should I address you?" "Yun Wanli." "Mr. Su, if it's all right with you, you can just call me Brother Yun," Yun Wanli suggested with a smile. That answer was jaw-dropping for Mo Fengping, Fei Tianyi, and Han Yuxiang. The latter was well aware of what Su Ping was capable of, but it was still against his expectations that the principal would act that humbly, allowing Su Ping to address him as Brother Yun. That was the first time that Han Yuxiang had seen the principal like that. The principal, a legendary battle pet warrior. "Okay, I will call you Brother Yun. What I am going to tell you is about the Dragon Tower and it cannot be heard by others. I would like some privacy." Su Ping went straight to the point. Yun Wanli was surprised. "Okay, let's go outside." "Good," Su Ping agreed and vanished on the spot. Yun Wanli narrowed his eyes. That was teleportation. That was a skill exclusive to the void state and above. However, Su Ping, who was merely at the titled rank, was able to use that skill with such proficiency. Yun Wanli had heard stories about that fate challenger, but seeing was believing. No wonder Su Ping had been able to exit the tower alive after creating a scene and killing legendary battle pet warriors. Yun Wanli didn't dally as he left the building. He looked up to the sky and saw Su Ping standing in the air. He immediately flew to join him. Su Ping raised his eyebrows. It was interesting to see that Yun Wanli didn't teleport. It seemed that Yun Wanli was merely at the ocean state. He had thought that Yun Wanli had already mastered teleportation. "Fate Challenger Su, do tell." Yun Wanli set up a seal solemnly. Su Ping nodded. "I don't think the Dragon Tower is some usual test place. Do you know the story behind that place? I went in there to find clues about my sister and something happened. I smashed through the roof of the tower. I don't know what it was, but the monsters inside were afraid of something and they didn't come out, but I don't know when they'll come out either. When they do, they have the power to destroy the Valiant Academy in a single blow. The residents of the Longyang base city will suffer as well, and the entire subcontinent district will fall. The only way to stop that from happening when the monsters get out is for all the legendary battle pet warriors of the tower to come and help." Yun Wanli produced a forced smile. "I knew that the Dragon Tower meant trouble." "Humor me. That Dragon Tower is indeed not a common place. Our founder visited that place and noticed strange things about it, later deciding to build the academy in the area. Later inspection revealed that the Dragon Tower was a complicated place. There was a time when the place was off limits. However, our third principal opened up this place in the past, for the students to test their skills after some research was done." Yun Wanli heaved a sigh. The Dragon Tower belongs to a distant past and was on the blue planet long before the age of Astral Pets arrived. The Dragon Tower was buried underground at the very beginning. At the dawn of the Astral Pets era, there was a battle between the first Beast Kings. Their chaotic fight split mountains and the ground was cracked, thus revealing the Dragon Tower. Su Ping raised his eyebrows. The Dragon Tower was in fact that Heaven Killer's finger. The Heavenly King had to be extremely powerful, considering that a single finger could withstand the passage of time. That Heavenly King was stronger than anyone could imagine. "I have pierced the Dragon Tower. Can you deal with what's inside?" Su Ping asked. Yun Wanli came back to his senses from his recollections. He curled his lips. "You broke it and now you're asking me for a solution. The one who breaks it should be responsible for the repair." Of course, Yun Wanli was unable to say those words out loud. For Su Ping to be willing to discuss was proof that he, after all, was not a merciless person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had to bring that up. The fall of the subcontinent district would be nothing for legendary battle pet warriors because they could easily find another place to settle down. Yun Wanli replied, "We are not without solutions." The third principal had thought of a solution when he opened up the place. He set up an ancient formation outside the Dragon Tower, a formation designed to kill all evil. "I will ask some friends of mine to come over and help me, and Fate Challenger Su, please come as well to help me repair the top. We will be safe as long as the formation is still active." Su Ping breathed in relief. "Good. I see that I haven't made too much of a problem. It would have been bothersome to kill all those things inside." Yun Wanli didn't know what to say. He had only entered the Dragon Tower when he was young, but he had other means to gather information about the things inside. The top level was dangerous. To kill all the creatures inside was impossible, unless all the legendary battle pet warriors of the tower, including the master of the tower, came as Su Ping suggested. "Do you know why there's an age limit of 24? Su Ping had other questions. Yun Wanli shook his head. "I don't know. That has always been the case since the Dragon Tower was discovered. No one knew the reason." Su Ping realized that it had to be an innate rule of the finger. It was a strange rule nonetheless. He would have to ask Joanna. I won't bother myself about this since you have a solution. I'll have to take care of my personal business now. Su Ping decided he had to find Su Lingyu first. I heard that your sister went missing. Is there anything I can do to help you? Not yet, Su Ping said, and teleported back to the building. Yun Wanli forced a bitter smile after Su Ping's disappearance. He, a legendary battle pet warrior at the Ocean State, was unable to teleport yet, while Su Ping could use it when he was merely at the titled rank. What a slap in the face. Yun Wanli had to fly down and go back to the building. He could not leave since he was already there. The others who were waiting inside the building wondered what Su Ping and the principal had been talking about. But the look on the principal's face told them that the discussion had gone well, which relieved Mo Fengping and Han Yuxiang. Play the recording, Su Ping said to Han Yuxiang. Han Yuxiang told the man in charge to play the recording from the place they had left off. Su Ping browsed quickly and soon finished watching all the recordings on the day of Su Lingyu's disappearance. Some areas were not shown on the recording. He was able to confirm that she had left her dorm. Then she went past some cultivation areas, and that was. Su Ping watched the recordings a second time, but failed to find anything suspicious. Su Ping thought about it with a frown and said to Han Yuxiang, gather all the students that were on campus on that day. I will ask them one by one. Han Yuxiang could not believe it, one by one. Since your surveillance system failed, the students are the perfect witnesses. I believe someone may have seen her in the areas where your surveillance system didn't work, Su Ping explained. Han Yuxiang turned to the principal for instructions. Gathering all the students, so that Su Ping could question them one by one. It would be hard to gather all the students except for orientation or the graduation ceremony. Those students had influential backgrounds. Not even the most common of the students would allow anyone to interrogate them.